Hey guys, how you doing all today? This is going to be my second post, and what I want to sort of like briefly discuss today about is actually the pressure that men actually find themselves under, being the actual sort of sole provider or shared provider for income for their marriage and their family. Now the reason I actually sort of bring this up because I was actually at lunch not so long ago with a mate that lives here in sort of Bali, and such a dear sort of guy and sort of very genuine and very sort of down to earth, and family is his prime priority, which is completely understandable. Um, as we were discussing sort of just about life and sort of like philosophy and all that sort of thing as you do, one of the things I asked him was like, where does he feel that he can take his business? He's been in a successful business for 10 years. He's been in the architectural industry. He does like amazing work, got a great body of work, and he was discussing that he had the fear of advancing his business and taking it to overseas and reaching out and all that type of thing, purely because of the fact that he had actually seen other successful designers or architects or just successful people in general. And one of the common denominations that he actually sort of knows between all these people was that yes, so they were successful in their actual careers, but their family units had actually started to fall apart. And as I was sort of listening to him, I started to sort of realize that, yeah, that's always a probability no matter what you do, but like it doesn't necessarily have to be that outcome. And as I said to him, that one of the things that people neglect to actually do is that they focus more on about how much time they actually have to put into something, which is actually going to be their indicator on how successful they're going to be. Now, there's an expression that's always used in current sort of modern time is, and now that is sort of like, like work smarter, not harder. And I'm a really big believer in that actual concept, because for many, many years I worked long hours, 7 days a week, 14 to 16 hours a day to sort of build up the business, to have it succeed and all that sort of thing. But now when I sort of look back on it, that I could have actually easily obtained and reached the level of success that I've had in my actual design career if I also sort of looked at it sort of differently. And like they say, like hindsight is, a wonderful thing after the fact. So as I was talking away to my sort of friend, and I was explaining to him that people do focus on how much time they're putting into something, but it's not really time. It's actually more about the actual energy that you actually put into something. So if you've got sort of like a business and you want to actually put more energy into it, time is really irrelevant. It's actually your output of energy that you're going to place into doing that project or that work or that job or that career or running your business and all that sort of thing. So while sort of talking to him, as I was sort of listening, he had the fear because of witnessing other successful people's family unit breaking apart. And as I said, as I always had done in my business, when I actually employed people, I employed really good people that had great energy output, that were either as good or if not better than me. So therefore I would actually give them projects, give them divisions to actually look after, and then they would actually put their 80%, or if not, if you were lucky, 100% of their energy into those actual projects and my business. And therefore it then reduced the amount of energy that I actually had to put in the business. I may have just had to go into that division, that area, and go, you know what, I don't have to put 100% energy into this. I can actually just put 20% because so-and-so is already putting in 80% for me and it's running sort of really well. So then when you start to do that and prioritize your energy, not necessarily your time, then all of a sudden you've got more energy that you can actually also put into your family unit and take off that pressure about not spending time with them, or your partner actually saying, oh, you don't spend enough time with us, we don't see you and the kids and all that type of thing, which then starts to build up like resentment and even further pressure on men, because then they tend to shut down. because men from a very early age aren't actually taught how to actually express their emotions. They're raised in a juxtaposition. Women can multitask, men not so much necessarily, and I'm not saying that all men, and I'm not generalizing, but with my experiences and what I hear just in conversations with women when they talk about men, men can't actually sort of multitask and yada yada yada. Well, that might be possibly so, but that's only just because of the way that men are actually raised from young boys, teenage boys, to young men, to adult professional men. And that is that young women are actually taught how to multitask. Young women are taught actually how to express their emotions and understand their emotions and be more into their feminine energies and all that type of thing. Young boys are actually raised with this sort of like juxtaposition of confusion, where their primary carer actually is their mother. Then she's going to actually like wrap her arms around them, and if he falls over, she's going to attend to him, and so on and so on. So she's showing that side of thing. But then the father comes home, and he comes home from work, and the role model that he believes that he is to play is like his son to be in sports, and to, like, if he falls over, get up, son, you don't need to cry, all that sort of thing. So then when young boys become young men and become adults, they go into relationships that do actually pretty much actually reflect the identity of their primary carers and their role models, which are their parents. So therefore most men will actually, as they say, will marry their mother type, and women will marry their father types. It's actually a given. It's just how we are socially raised. I myself were actually raised very sort of differently. I was raised in a household where I was actually one of three brothers, and that I actually grew up doing the dishes and doing the cooking and learning how to actually have to sew and repair, but also to work on a car, wash a car, do the gardening, take the garbage out, so on and so on, and my sisters were the same. So for me, it was actually a very different upbringing on how male energy works and how female energy works. I was raised with the understanding that the two were identically the same, and they were equals. And this is why I've always viewed women as equal to men and no different. But while talking to my friend, it was sort of very clear that this fear of advancing and changing the landscape of what their lives are, and this safe position that his company that he had actually built and worked really hard with, that it became also to a fear by actually observing someone else or multiple people's lifestyles where their families actually fell apart. And as I said to him, well, why don't we sort of look at from a different other side of the coin, so to speak, that sure, let's learn by example. My father raised me in the concept, son, observe people, look at their mistakes and learn from that, and try to actually go down a different path. So as I said to my friend, well, how about why don't we just look at why these actual family units actually fell apart and work on something to make sure that it doesn't happen. And I said that one of the things that I do believe that is really, really important in any relationships, regardless of what your background is, and I know that a lot of people find this very, very hard, and that is just communication. If you communicate with your actual spouse, with your partner, with your children as well, and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. This would be really exciting. Let's all sort of get on board. Let's discuss it, pros and cons, fears and all that sort of thing. Because once you do that, you're getting a collective mindset that's actually creating the same energy output of all of you together to actually advance, to move to other places. Sure, have an exit plan. Have an exit plan, hands down. Always keep your original branch, office, keep in contact with your workplace, whatever. Build up your sort of relationship so you've got to fall back on. But you know what? Don't let fear actually take control of you being and made to feel that you have to continually stay doing the same old. Because you're only going to actually put so much internal stress on yourself, and you're going to deplete your energies. And when our energies are depleted, also too does our mental health. And, you know, as they say, between the ages of 18 and 50, male suicide rates are at their actual highest. And men's responsibilities are kind of different to women, particularly in society and also in the family demographic. Society just automatically places on a male that he is actually the breadwinner. He is the one that actually is supposed to support and pay and do everything. Well, that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure for one single person to now have the responsibility of a spouse, one, two, or even three, or even four children. Like, it's enormous. And I can't even imagine what that would be like, but I've actually seen it, and it is really, really devastating. So look, at the end of the day, guys, all you got to do is just really sort of prioritize your energy, where you want to put your energy, work out a plan, bring in other people, use their energy to your advantage. It also will be the advantage to them, because they'll also learn, they'll feel part of, and they'll feel more appreciated, they'll feel more inclusive, and then that allows you to remove the fear of your family sort of like unit falling apart. If not, it's actually going to be stronger. So anyway, guys, I hope this sort of little bit of insight sort of helps, and stay tuned for my next post.